Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Toli and this is the second video on this channel, which is called Audio Grid. In the last video, we've been preparing covers, or at least trying to do so. And in order to do that, I showed you how to listen to mixed and finished tracks in order to get our tabs out of these tracks instead of having to rely on tabs which you can find online. In this video, I'm going to show you how I'm preparing my projects in general. I'm doing it in Logic, and if you continue watching, you will see how I organize every single track in order to have the whole project finished and ready for recording. All right, I've prepared a project for you without any single track on it. And what I'm going to show you, just as I said before, is how I'm managing my project, how I'm staging every single track for every instrument that I need. Basically, we're starting with the drums. For drums, I usually tend to use the kick drum, snare, tom, floor tom. Let's do a second floor tom because I have two of them. What have I got else? Two room microphones, two overheads, hi-hat microphone. Let's do 11 tracks for the smaller tom. Okay, we're doing 11 tracks. What we could do is we could start with input 1 and have them ascending. So each track gets another number, another input number. So it's the kick, snare top. In this particular project that we're going to record, I'm not going to be using snare bottom because I simply used to not using it in a fast process. If you want to have a professional project, obviously it depends on what you want to achieve with your final mix. But what I can say is that you need as many tracks as you have drums, and you need to order them as logical as possible in order for the mixing engineer or the editing engineer, if you're not editing it by yourself, to understand all this kind of stuff that you are sending it to him. All right, let's move on. We've got two floor toms. Overhead left, overhead right, room left, room right. And let's do a hi-hat, because I've got a hi-hat microphone. Now, grouping is the most crucial part. So I'm usually arranging all my tracks in separate folders. Folders in Logic do not necessarily mean that you're routing the audio signal through these folders. It's just that you can order your tracks in a folder in order to minimize the size of the whole project so that you don't have to scroll through basically 50, 60 tracks in the end when you have everything done. All right, should we route it? No, we just move on with defining the tracks. Okay, what we need now is, in this project, I'm going to use a bass guitar. And for the bass, I'm making 2 tracks. Yeah, I'm doing 2 tracks. The first track is going to be the low. That's what I'm calling it. Second track is the texture track. For the bass, we can, in Logic at least, use another track stack. I like to use a summing track. This is kind of a folder, but with an integrated audio bus. So you're basically routing all your audio through this bus. It's not what we wanted to do here because I'm going to do it separately later on, because drum routing is way more complicated than bus routing. So this is the bass bus. Bass bus. Cool. We've got the bass, we've got the drums, then we've got guitars. I'm used to dual tracking guitars. Some people tend to quad track them, some people tend to mono track the lead guitar, but I like to simply double track every single guitar. For instance, if you have two guitars, a rhythm guitar and a lead guitar in your mix or your cover or your personal song, because it obviously it's not only dependent on whether you want to do a cover. In this case, you're going to do only 2 tracks. So if you're also recording your own stuff, it's better to at least double track every single guitar in order to pan one guitar to the left, the other guitar to the right, so you have a wide stereo image of one single guitar. Cool. Now for recording, at least in the beginning, I'm only going with 4 tracks. This is the rhythm guitar L, DI, guitar R, DI, and lead guitar L for left, DI, L guitar, right, DI. So what we can do now is group these 2 guitars together into a folder track, and these 2 guitars together into a folder track. Now, unfortunately, in my Logic version, I think in later Logic versions you can put folders into folders, but as of now in my Logic version you can't do that. I'm too lazy to upgrade all my plugins and everything, so it has to work like that. Now we need to create, or at that stage we don't really need to do, but later on we would have done it anyway, so I'm doing it right now. So all these DI tracks, I'm going to reamp them later on. So I'm doing all these tracks, I'm duplicating them, and already want to create some final tracks, not the DI tracks. So when you're recording and editing on this track, you later on are going to reamp through, for instance, through a Camper or some real amp or other hardware amp, and the output is going to this track, and here with this one it's going to this one respectively. Okay, we're doing the same thing with the lead guitars. Oops, it's not what I wanted to do. Hard pan them first. In the end, I'm going to be getting more creative, probably. All right. Now, what we gonna do now, next? I think I'm going to do vocals in the end. Let's root the kick drum. Now I'm going to show you my routing, my primary routing. On this project, I will use phase inversion in order to preserve as much of my real drum sound as possible. So I need an inverted track for every single drum that I have. I know if you don't understand what I'm doing right now or why I'm doing that for, I might show it in a later tutorial, not right now. But the most important thing right now is that I'm routing all these drums into their own buses. So we've got the kick bus. I'm using only a maximum of six letters in order for my SSL UF8 or what it's called, for my hardware to display it properly on their displays. Okay, then we've got the snare tracks. They're going to bus 3. Tom 1. Tom 2. Oh, I routed them to the wrong bus. Okay, let's repeat this one. We're going to bus 5. You need to be very concentrated and precise in your routing, because this is the basis for everything that you're doing after that. So sometimes there's mistakes going to be happening, but there's way worse situations that you can have. If you recognize it, it's just like programming. If you have a small mistake, you just need to find it. I know it's a hassle, but in the end, when you found it, it suddenly works out. Everything works out in the end. So the overhead bus goes to 11, and the room bus goes to 12. That's because I prefer to leave buses 8 to 10 for my final drum routing, and for the distortion bus and for the reverb bus, respectively. All right, we've got the overheads. We've got our room bus. Now we're routing that to bus 10. The hi-hat is, okay, this time I'm going to route it in the drum bus, in the final drum bus. But usually, sometimes I tend to do a routing into the overhead bus. So it gets nearly the same processing as my overheads, only emphasizing the hi-hat a little bit. Then I have the kick bus. Kick bus also going to the drum bus. Let's name the buses. Snare bus goes to bus 10. Tom bus. Tom bus. All the tom buses, this is going to be a little bit interesting. I'm pre-routing all the toms to a single bus in order to have more control over what's finally happening with them, in order to sidechain them, have the possibility to sidechain them better in the end. Oof. But yeah, it's a complicated routing. In the end, you can take every single, if you don't want to have as much of a professional sound, you just can route every single track that you're recording in a final instrument bus. So basically, you can take every track and route it to bus 10, and bus 10 is going to be your drum bus. It's also going to work out. It's just my way of routing. Okay, we've got this is finished. Then we've got the floor tom. It's also going to bus 13. It's already bus 13. It's bus 10, bus 10, bus. Okay, this is drum bus. Now let's check. We have all our tracks and we have all the buses on here. What we need to do is, this is Tom bus. This is TomTom 1 bus, I think. Yeah, this is the TT1 bus, TT2 bus, FT1 bus, FloorTom 2 bus. 11 was, I already forgot that. Oh, overhead bus, room bus, drum bus, and the tom bus, the final tom bus. This one we need to route in bus 10. So basically what we have now, you probably have seen it from other engineers. What we have now, if we are routing and playing every single track on here, but we're muting the drum bus, the main bus. You can also set another color, like this one, for instance, so that you know that this is the main bus. If you're muting this one, every single track is going to be muted, because basically every track is muted into a single bus on here, one of those, and all these buses are finally routed to bus 10, which is our final drum bus. Yeah, this is the same thing that's happening with our bass guitar. The two tracks are routed into bus 1, which is our bass bus. So if you're muting this one, the whole bass guitar is muted in the end. And this is what we want to do with our rhythm guitar also. I like to route all my rhythm guitars to bus 18. It's just my personal preference. You can also name the buses in Logic, and it's probably the same way in other audio workstations, but this is the way I'm doing it. So this is the rhythm guitar, our Git rhythm guitar bus. We don't want to make a send. Oh, what I forgot about the drums is to make sends for the distortion and reverb bus. I'm going to do it right now. Bear with me. Okay, now we have the guitar bus. This is the final guitar bus. Sign channel strip color. I know some just adore the option to have the possibility to assign a certain color to it, but I just get by without using any special colors. It's just my way of working. Probably not the most efficient way, but who knows. Okay, we've got the rhythm guitar set. Now we have the lead guitars. And lead guitars, I prefer to go to bus 19. So this is the LGT bus. And this one also goes to bus 20. So if you're muting the guitar bus right here, you're muting the entire guitar section. If you're muting the drum section, you can mute it by hitting this one button, and you can do the same one with the bass guitar. So I forgot to route something, namely distortion. I'm using or distortion and parallel compression. I'm using it combined with distorting the drum sound of some drums and parallel compressing it with a compressor on this one in order to have more flexibility whilst compressing. It also goes to bus 10. So you have snare bus that also goes to it, and the tom bus. Tom bus also goes to this one. I'm starting out at 0 dB. Yeah, overhead and room tracks are not going to this, only the tom tracks. Now what I also want to do, or prepare, is the reverb tom bus for the tom bus and for the snare bus. It's also going to bus 10. But these ones, I'm going to mute these ones first because I first want to have control over the first couple of tracks in order to mix these first without having an influence from these ones on the basic mix. All right, that's my basic routing. For the vocals, it's nearly the same thing. I'm not going to demonstrate that yet. Probably I'm going to demonstrate that in another video. Because basically with routing vocals you have more variety, and I prefer to make a proper routing of the vocals when they're edited, when they're cut, and when they're all recorded. So in the end, when I'm starting out recording vocals, I just make a couple of tracks, I record onto them, I'm editing them, and then I'm starting out on one final track for the main vocals, where I have the final track, the final comp, and I'm basically building the harmonies and the doubles around that main track. And I'm basically doing that while recording. This is my personal taste, my personal preference to work, and yeah, I don't see any sense to make a routing right now. So I hope you liked this video, and if you're interested in how to do all these kinds of things in another DAW, you can always write some feedback down in the comments. And in the future, I will provide finished templates for all the popular DAWs out there as a download. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. I hope I'll see you again in the next video.